the Rangers pulled out a win against one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, but they were nearly sunk by their own mistakes. And is it time to start worrying about this offense never, ever hitting a home run again? We're talking about all that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the World Series champion Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, before we get into the weird and wild game that was on Wednesday, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on a classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. Now, the Rangers pulled out another one-run win. That's 2 in this series against the Detroit Tigers, and against a team that has been pretty good in one-run games that had their ace on the hill. The Rangers coming off of a honestly just silly and frustrating and what felt like kind of self-inflicted loss on Tuesday's game against the Tigers, a game where the Rangers just made some critical mistakes and John Gray looked amazing. The offense just couldn't do much of anything. And they head into this game with Tarik Skubal on the mound versus Dane Dunning, who I'll admit, I've been a little worried about Dunning this year. He's had some trouble with the walks. He's had some trouble getting out of jams and pitching super deep into games. And when you're going up against one of the best pitchers in baseball, and that's what Tarik Skubal has been, you think, okay, well, this is probably a loss. And then you have Jack Leiter's debut on Thursday. So you might be heading out of Detroit, losing 3 out of 4 in a series against a team that has aspirations, but that the Rangers think they should be better than. And so the Rangers head into this when they get a run in the first inning off of a sac fly from Adolis Garcia. Some good plate appearances from the Rangers in that first inning to get that lead, and then going to the bottom of the second, and Dane Dunning gives up a home run to Tarik Carpenter, who's looked absolutely amazing this series and might just be the best hitter in the history of the world if we're taking how hard it is to hit home runs in Tiger Stadium and seeing him hit one that was an absolute no-doubter. But Dunning battled in this one. He did not have his best up. He really, really struggled with the walks, and I'll say it, he outdueled Tarik Skubal. For one game, he outdueled Tarik Skubal. 5 innings for him, just one earned run, 1 unearned run as well. 5 strikeouts for him in this one in those 5 innings. The one that was earned came off of a Tarik Carpenter home run. The one that was unearned came off of the last batter that he faced, a frustrating mistake pitch to Spencer Torkelson that he drove into the gap for a double and ended up scoring on an error by Corey Seager. We'll talk about the Rangers' self-inflicted wounds later on in the show, but he did enough. He battled, gave the Rangers 5 innings, kept them in it, and the Rangers ended up giving him a lead in the top of the 6th inning. And while he surrendered that run in the bottom of the 6th, it was unearned, and it just should not have scored. It was an inherited run that was scored, so he wasn't even on the mound when it did score. But give credit to Dane Dunning for battling, and give some huge credit to a few guys in this Rangers offense, including Adolis Garcia, including Corey Seager with a couple of opposite field hits, which doesn't happen all that much. It's the reason why he shifted so much. And after some really, really hard contact from Corey Seager in Tuesday's game, where it's starting to look like he's getting a little bit more right, some blue pitch that are falling in, and Adolis Garcia with the sac fly and with an RBI double that we'll talk about the home run drought, but he absolutely smashed that thing to the opposite field. A couple of RBIs for him, and a big at-bat from Jonah Heim after that RBI double that felt like it should have been a home run and would have been a home run in a lot of different ballparks, but not Detroit and not in April. But Jonah Heim, down 0-2 against one of the best pitchers in baseball, gets a slider in the zone, bottom of the zone, middle over the plate, and just plops it right over the shortstop into the outfield. Adolis Garcia, huge credit to him on that play. The Rangers got a lead on, or extended their lead on, I guess you could say, at that point, and scoring the second run, giving the Rangers a 4-1 lead at that point, getting a great read on that pitch, and a huge credit to Jonah Heim for an incredible at-bat. The guy's at-bats have been looking much, much better in the last week or so, basically since he went to Houston. And, when he had that massive, massive bomb for his second of the season, it looked like he is starting to get his feet back under him. And that's good for the Rangers because they need every at-bat they can get, every bat at the top of their lineup that they can get. And it seems like Heim is going to be hitting probably higher in the order against lefties. 5th is where he's been hitting so far, and he crushes lefties. So that's a good sign for the Rangers. Having him have this kind of an at-bat in that spot against that pitcher is huge. And you know who else had an incredible at-bat? Off the bench, pinch hit by Josh Smith. Joshua H. Pookie Smith. MV Pookie at this point. The go-ahead RBI pinch hit double off of this Tigers pin that has been exceptional this season. It wasn't off their closer, but Shelby Miller, old friend alert, has been pretty darn good so far this year. It was a matter of the Rangers just clawing their way on base. A couple of misplays. One of them was an error. One of them was ruled a hit, but the Rangers got their first couple of batters on using their speed, just legging things out in Zeke Duran, in Evan Carter, both of them getting on base in a crucial spot. And then up comes Josh Smith pinch hitting for Davis Wenzel, who, even though he went 0 for 3, and even though he hasn't had his first major league hit just yet, I think it's coming because I've been really impressed with Wenzel's at-bats, even though they have been few and far between, because he's just getting the starts at third base when there is a lefty starter on the mound. But back to Josh Smith, pinch hitting in this appearance, comes in, first pitch, just drills it into the gap in a huge spot where the Rangers had just given up the tying run, just given up 3 straight innings with runs given up. Rangers had a 4-1 lead going into the bottom of the 6th. 1 run in silly fashion in the bottom of the 6th. Another run in even sillier fashion in the bottom of the 7th. And an even sillier run given up in the 8th. In a tie game against this Detroit pen that has been exceptional, and against a Detroit offense that just only seems to score in the 8th inning or later. It's been a trend for them. It's how they've gotten to 10-11, or I guess 10-8 at this point, 3rd in the AL Central. But the Rangers said, No, we're not going to lose this one. We're not going to lose this series. We're going to at least come out of here with a split in 4 games when we have not looked our best selves, when the offense has looked pretty bad for most of this series, and at times not great for the year. Definitely not on the aggregate where you thought this offense would be, but coming up with a big hit. Josh Smith has been truly exceptional to start the season. It's time he starts getting some more recognition for what he's doing. The Rangers got this kind of a performance out of Zeke Duran in the first half last year when one of their stars was down for multiple weeks, and it seems like it's for sure that Josh Young is going to be out for longer than Corey Seager missed last year. Seager missed about 6 weeks, and it's going to be closer to 2 months for Josh Young that he's going to be on the IL. It won't be till June 1st till he's back. And while you're getting this performance out of Josh Smith, who made some tweaks in his stance and is selling out for less power, he's hitting the ball less hard, but he is getting the sweet spot on it most times. He is not chasing, he is not expanding the zone, he is not striking out, and he is walking at a very good rate. Strikeout rate in the top 5% of baseball, swing and miss rate top 10% of baseball, walk rate the top 2/3 of the league, not quite as good as it was earlier, but the sweet spot percentage is where he is doing his damage. He's not hitting the ball hard, barrel rate in the bottom 14% of baseball, but the sweet spot percentage, so he's hitting it at the right angle and at the right trajectory, which is how you make the most of getting doubles and extra base hits and singles and just hitting the ball well, even if you don't have the most raw power. His sweet spot percentage is in the 82nd percentile, so top 20% of baseball. That's pretty darn good. And when you're putting together these quality at-bats, when you're not striking out, when you're walking at a good rate, and while you're playing a little bit of shortstop, a little bit of third base, it's really just those two so far for Josh Smith, but he is doing those at a passable level. Not the best, not elite, but he's getting more time there, and I think he will get a little bit better at third base. He's fine. He's passable at both shortstop and third base, and the Rangers need him to hit this well. They need him to play that defense at third and at short, and it's getting to the point where I don't think you even want to platoon Josh Smith anymore. Even though he hasn't hit lefties particularly well at the big league level and just hasn't had a lot of opportunities against lefties, he's hitting .319 at this point in the year, slugging over 400, and has an on-base of .418. .418 as an on-base percentage for a guy who was thought of as the second-choice backup infielder when this team is fully healthy. That's not the case anymore. He's past Zeke. He's past Zeke by a lot at this point, and I'm still a believer in Zeke Duran. I still think that he is one of the best bench bats in the league. When this team is fully healthy, having these two guys, I talked about it all spring. Josh Smith looked amazing in the spring, and it has continued over to the regular season. And with this injury to Josh Young and with Corey Seager needing more time off than you would hope for your elite star, but you got to do it to keep him healthy, having a Josh Smith is an absolute game changer. And the Rangers need to start seriously considering letting him hit every single day. Coming up, talk about a little bit of worries about this offense not hitting home runs. Kirby Yates coming up huge. And finally, a 40-man roster move to get Jack Leiter on this big league roster. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Policygenius. Life insurance is an important safety net for your family, but sometimes finding the right policy on your own can be super time-consuming and overwhelming. That's where Policygenius comes in. Policygenius is the country's leading online insurance marketplace. It saves you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. Policygenius helps you compare options from the top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help talk you through it. Talk to a team of award-winning agents who will walk you through the process step by step. You can easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Your work life insurance policy may not offer enough protection that your family needs. Even worse, it may not come with you if you leave your job. Policygenius has no incentive to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. Thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot from customers who found the best fit for their needs. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/LockedOnMLB. This episode is also brought to you by Monopoly Go. Guys, I need all of you to listen up for this huge announcement. I've been tracking leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super pumped to announce I am finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on the classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in huge fortunes. You charge rent for your iconic properties just like in classic Monopoly. You can charge your friends rent on your properties or go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards, where you can see who's topped the Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. So set yourself up on the charts. Download Monopoly Go free on the App Store or Google Play. Now, the Rangers offense has had a bit of a problem so far this season. The problem hasn't been scoring a bazillion runs at times. It hasn't been putting together quality at-bats. They've done that. They've walked, and they've got a decent team OPS. I mean, right now, most of their starters are at least league average hitters. I mean, Jonah Heim has got his OPS plus over 100. Marcus Semien, 17% better than league average. Seager's 20% better. Josh Smith has a 139 OPS plus. Heck, it's basically just Leody, Taveras, and Wyatt Langford that have been the below-average hitters on this everyday squad. But the main problem the Rangers' offense has had is that they are not hitting the ball over the fence. They have not hit a lot of home runs this year. They have hit, actually, incredibly too few home runs. And in this game, the Rangers should have had 2 more home runs, should have been propelled much higher on the leaderboard in the home run challenge, whatever, for this season. But right now, the Rangers have 15 home runs in 19 games. That puts them at 25th in Major League Baseball. A 3-way tie in 25th. Do you know who they're tied with? The Minnesota Twins, which, if you're tied with the Twins in home runs, last year they were also tied with the Twins in home runs, but at 3rd most in the league. That was at the end of the season, and they might still be in third at the end of the season this year. But the other team that they're tied with in home runs is the Miami freaking Marlins. The Miami Marlins. Also, by the way, the Twins have 2 fewer games than the Rangers. They've played 17 games. The Rangers played 19. They have the same amount of home runs. So, in 19 games, the Marlins have 15 home runs. Their offense has been atrocious, horrific, truly disgusting. There are only 2 teams the Rangers have more, 3 teams the Rangers have more home runs than. One of them is the Detroit Tigers, who are at 28th, which you better have more home runs than the Detroit Tigers. We saw how lopsided this offense can be. A couple of guys that are pretty solid at the top of the lineup, basically the top 3, and Torkelson, Riley Green, and Carey, Barry Bonds, Carpenter. But the bottom, well, at least bottom 3, maybe bottom 6 is not great. Then the other team they have more home runs than is the St. Louis Cardinals, 29th. They have 13 home runs this year. And then the truly horrific, awe-inspiringly terrible Chicago White Sox have 10 home runs in 18 games this year. If you get anywhere close to the White Sox, that's seriously worrying territory. The Rangers have 2 balls in this one that should have been home runs, would have been home runs in 19 out of 30 ballparks. Of course, one of the 11 parks where it wasn't is this stupid Detroit place where balls go to die unless you're Kerry Carpenter or unless you're just serving up absolute moonshots to Parker freaking Meadows, one of the worst hitters in the league. We'll talk about that later on in the show. But this offense just has not been hitting home runs. And the 2 players who were supposed to hit home runs, I'm so mad for Leody Taveras not getting that home run. Hit the ball 105 miles an hour at a great trajectory, and then the wind is conspiring against the Texas Rangers in Detroit. This is one of the hardest parks to hit home runs in, and I don't know if that's being aided by the Tigers' offense being truly horrific the last few years, or the fact that it's just very cold because it's Detroit and it's April, and they only get the sun there for like 6 weeks at a time, or 6 weeks for a year. And so it's hard to hit baseballs out. And also you're facing one of the best pitchers in the game in Tarik Skubal, so like that makes sense. But also Adolis Garcia's near 3-run homer. Should have been a 3-run homer. Literally hits the top of the fence on the yellow line and then falls back into play. You're about not even 6 inches away from a 3-run homer. Thankfully, Jonah Heim was able to drive in the 2 runs on second and third, and the Rangers didn't rue that possibility of only getting 1 run there. And because if they did, then maybe the Rangers lose this game and maybe we're in a much different mood come Thursday morning. But the Rangers just, it feels incredibly frustrating have this team not hitting home runs. I mean, the fact that White Langford hasn't hit his first home run and we're 19 games into the season is puzzling, confusing. There have been a few different ones where I thought he would get one, and going into Houston, where you can basically sneeze a home run into those Crawford boxes in left field, and the way Houston's pitching staff has been so horrendous this year, you thought, okay, I thought for sure he would get his first home run there. And, well, Detroit has just been the pitcher's park of all pitcher's parks, and this team is just not hitting home runs. Jared Walsh has been hitting terribly. There's only still the same amount of hitters with multiple home runs as there was on Sunday. I think the Rangers I don't know that the Rangers have hit a home run in this series. I actually am pretty sure that they haven't in the first 3 games. Maybe they will against Kenta Maeda because he can serve some up, but the Rangers have, 5 hitters with multiple home runs. They are Jonah Heim, Marcus Semien, Evan Carter, Adolis Garcia, and still on the IL, Josh Young, tied for second in home runs on this team. And he hasn't played in, 2 weeks? More than 2 weeks? Yeah. That's a little bit of a problem for this team. I'm not worried at this point. They're hitting the ball hard. White Langford is having some good at-bats. He had a really, really solid walk, and he's not being as aggressive early on in the strike zone. Against first pitch strikes, it seems like there's a lot of meatballs thrown 0-0 to him, and I would like him to have a little bit more of the Corey Seager approach. In fact, there was an advanced metric that was invented called the Seager to kind of track how good hitters are at being aggressive on the right pitches, like selective aggression, which is the name of Corey Seager's game, and something that the Rangers as a team have done very, very well, or at least did very, very well last year. And I don't know that they've done quite as well this year, but it's starting to get a little worrisome with this offense. It's been a little frustrating, but what has not been frustrating has been Kirby Yates. The guy came on in a huge situation, shut the door down, got the win, 4 outs for him, 4 strikeouts, 1 walk, and he was just magnificent. Still has not allowed an earned run this year, and his expected ERA is at 1.5. Top 4% of baseball, expected batting average of the top 10% of baseball. Same with his chase rate, the top 2% of baseball. Swing and miss rate, whiff rate, all those top 10%. The walk rate went down significantly, and that's just a matter of walking literally one batter. A 5% walk rate heading into this game, and now it's at 8%. So instead of being in the top quarter of the league in walk rate, he is middle of the pack, but still not getting barreled, getting ground balls, looking like peak Kirby Yates at this point. Still a little early to say that, but 9 strikeouts in 7 1/3 innings, 7 games, a 0 ERA, and a whip of .41. I feel pretty good about Kirby Yates being the Rangers' closer and pitching in high leverage situations. Someone who I do not have a lot of faith in pitching in high leverage situation, Austin Pruitt. About why he was in this game in a high leverage spot and how the Rangers nearly fumbled this away, but are starting to win some games that they absolutely did not last year. Why that bodes so well for this team moving forward. Right after this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Spring training is over and baseball season is officially underway, so don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs, take your pick of more or less, then add them to your PrizePicks entry today. PrizePicks has something for every sports fan, from baseball and basketball to League of Legends and everything in between. You can pick LeBron, Shohei Ohtani, Connor McDavid, and Jude Bellingham all in the same entry. PrizePicks is the best way to get in on the action on sports in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. PrizePicks is so simple to play, you can make your picks and submit your entry in less than 60 seconds. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions and special offers from the biggest moments in sports. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, download that app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Now, before the Rangers called up Jack Leiter, they had to make some moves, including opening up a spot on the 40-man roster. My initial thought would be to DFA Austin Pruitt, and my thought was either going to be that or Brock Burke moving to the 60-day IL after breaking his hand punching a wall, his non-pitching hand, because I know those broken hands can take some time to heal, and that ended up being the move to clear a 40-man roster spot for Mr. Jack Leiter wearing number 35. Shout out to the GOAT, Lance Lynn. Also shout out to my number on my own personalized jersey and the number that I always wear for my MLB The Show player. So I'm glad that I got my player in there before Jack Leiter stole that number 35. But Brock Burke is moving to the 60-day IL to open up that roster spot. And also, the Rangers demoted Grant Anderson, optioned him to AAA. Round Rock hasn't pitched in a little while, so Jack Leiter comes up, takes his spot in the rotation. We'll see if it's just a one-and-done start for Mr. Jack Leiter, but I'm excited for him to get his chance on the bump in this Thursday game against a Detroit Tigers lineup that apparently, according to Locked On Tigers host Scott Bentley, cannot hit a fastball. And for a guy who throws a very, very high percentage of fastballs in Jack Leiter, that seems like a pretty good matchup. Now, you're probably listening to this maybe even after Jack Leiter made his start, and I may end up looking foolish, but I'm still excited that Jack Leiter is a freaking big leaguer all before his 24th birthday, which was about what we were hoping for when he got called, or when he got drafted 3 years ago, nearly 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. But anyway, the Rangers nearly threw away this game, a game where they took a lead against one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, where they scored 4 runs on an ace and a guy who is a lot of people's AL Cy Young pick to start this season. They got a couple of free base runners in 3 errors in this one, and they made the most of it offensively. But defensively and pitching-wise, 3 of the 4 runs the Rangers gave up in this one are runs where you look at it and you say, okay, that was a stupid run. They shouldn't have given up that run. If they scored runs in different ways, then okay, you tip your hat. If they, if some of the best hitters in the game, if Riley Green, goes yard on you, when when Kerry Carpenter went yard on Dane Dunning, you thought, okay, that's the first run of the game. You think, okay, well, he's going to do that. He's a good hitter. Sometimes they get to Dane Dunning, and sometimes good hitters hit home runs. Even in Detroit, even in a park in April that seems to swallow all of the Rangers' attempted home runs, but we'll grant them to Kerry Barry Bonds Carpenter. Okay, that's one run. Fine. Second run comes in the 6th inning. A very frustrating run for multiple reasons. Not only because Dane Dunning comes back to face one hitter in Spencer Torkelson, gets up 2-1 in the count, or 1-2 on the count to him, leaves a sinker up middle, right over the plate and up, which is not where you want a sinker, and Torkelson crushes it for a double just over the head of Wyatt Langford. You have a leadoff double with Kerry Barry Bonds Carpenter coming up, and you think, okay, well, that's not great. That's not ideally what you want, and that's the day for Dane Dunning. In comes Jake Latz, gets a couple outs, including a big strikeout of Kerry Barry Bonds Carpenter, and then you're 2 outs, and here comes a ball hit right to Corey Seager, a pretty routine play, makes the throw to Zeke Duran, and the throw's a little bit high. The runner is not all that fast, so it didn't have to be rushed to that point, and maybe a slightly taller first baseman in one Nathaniel Lowe would have made that play. Maybe a more experienced first baseman would have made that play, and Zeke probably could have and should have made the play on that throw. It wasn't a great throw. The error gets charged to Corey Seager. The run scores. Okay, it's 4-2 game. Not ideal, but fine. Austin Pruitt ends up getting you out of the inning, and then comes back on in the 7th inning of a 2-run game against the Detroit Tigers team that, granted, isn't the best team, but has been scoring these runs late. So this is a leverage situation. You did have Jose Leclerc available. You did have Robertson and Yates both very available to pitch the 8th and 9th inning. So the 7th inning was the question at this point, and then on comes Austin Pruitt, who has not looked good so far this season. Just got absolutely lit up by the Astros in his most recent game. And yeah, he got you that out to get you out of the inning in the bottom of the 6th, but I did not anticipate to see him in the 7th inning. And I don't know what was going on there. I don't know why he was allowed to face this order at this point. It was frustrating. And granted, one of the hitters he was facing was Parker Meadows, one of the worst hitters in baseball. At this point, he has a .77 batting average and a .439 OPS, which I believe was around a 300 or 350 OPS, but it jumped up pretty significantly because you gave up a home run to Parker freaking Meadows, one of the worst hitters in the league, to make it a 1-run game because you had the worst reliever in your bullpen throwing in a high leverage situation in a game where the Rangers are looking to steal it against Tarik Skubal and at least head out of Detroit with a split, and you've got the worst pitcher on your roster on the mound in the 7th inning of a high leverage game to make it a 1-run game. And you think, why is this guy here? How do you give up that home run to Parker Meadows, who has got some juice, but swings and misses a lot? First pitch was a curveball, just a show-me curveball right over the middle of the plate, 0-0, which was not expected. And then the second pitch, which was the home run, was a 4-seam fastball that was just right down the freaking middle of the plate, and it wasn't even missed. 90.7 miles an hour. It was the spot. Jonah Heim was putting his glove right there, right over the heart of the plate, about belt high, a little above that. But, I mean, even the worst hitter in the big leagues can crush that pitch. And he did. 399 feet, 108.7 miles an hour off the bat. Because that is a horrible pitch to, granted, a not great hitter who is there just for his defense and his speed. But again, that's a stupid run. That's okay. You shouldn't have given up that run. Okay, whatever, fine. It's still a 1-run game. You still have the lead heading into the 8th inning, and you have your 2 best guys ready for the final, however many outs. They both got an inning and a third worth of work in Robertson and Yates. And then you go to the bottom of the 8th inning. You let up a single, okay, fine, not that big of a deal. Gets over to second base on a ground out, okay, fine, not that big of a deal. But then Javi Baez, another one of the worst hitters in the league, because Detroit has a few of them at the bottom third of their order, gets a knuckle curve from David Robertson that was supposed to be low and away outside the zone, and it misses in off the plate. Big miss. The entire width of the plate is how much this missed by, and Javi Baez is a guy who will expand the zone expeditiously. And he bloops a little single right over the glove of Corey Seager to make this a tie game. Just another incredibly frustrating run to give up. So the final 3 runs of this game all came to tie the game. The Rangers had a 3-run lead. You have the error. You have the home run to the worst hitter, one of the worst hitters in baseball. And then you have a bloop single right over Corey Seager in a game where you stole 4 runs against one of the best pitchers in baseball. And you think, they're going to lose this game. They're going to lose another stupid game. They don't win 1-run games the last 3 years, so why would I expect this team to win 2 1-run games in not only the span of a week, but the span of 3 games? They had the 1-0 win on Monday's game, which was fantastic work and a absolute just terribly awful offensive performance on Monday. But hey, they got 1 run, and that was enough. The pitchers made it stick. In this game, 1 run ended up being enough because they got the 1 run in the top of the 9th inning against an elite bullpen. And you look back at this game, and Kirby Yates looked, again, incredible, and has looked incredible for this year. You get the great offensive performances, the great at-bats from Adolis Garcia, from Jonah Heim, and from pinch-hitting Josh Smith. And you get enough out of your bullpen, which, by the way, Robertson has been a little lucky in having a 1.69 ERA. His expected ERA right now is 4.67. Expected batting average is 2.77. He is not getting a lot of whiffs. He is not getting a whole lot of strikeouts and doesn't have an elite walk rate. His fastball run value is in the top 10% of baseball. Pitcher run value at the top 10% of baseball. But the expected ERA of 4.67, about 3 runs higher than his actual ERA. Maybe he doesn't end up sticking as Rangers' 8th inning guy. Thankfully, Josh Sborz is set to come off the IL within the span of a week, so maybe he slots into that 8th inning role. Maybe Leclerc starts to find a little bit more of that velo and slots into that role. But hey, this is the type of game the Rangers weren't winning last year, and it's why they only won 90 games while being a 96-win true talent team. It's why they lost the division, why they didn't run away with it at some point in August. But hey, right now the Rangers are still atop the division, atop a division that is full of teams that are not winning games like this. The Mariners are not winning games like this. The Astros are super not winning games like this. Their bullpen continues to look atrocious. They just got swept by the Braves. And yeah, the Astros might end up being a better overall team. The Astros are still hitting the crap out of the baseball, and I still think they're going to be a playoff team. But the Rangers are winning these games. They are getting these wins banked in while their offense is inconsistent and hurt, while their starting rotation is banged up and they're getting a start from Jack Leiter, which you did not anticipate in the first month of the season. But hey, wins are wins, whether they are silly, whether they are foolish. Games like this, wins like this, make me feel very good about the direction of this team. And while I would like this team to be about 5 games over 500, they probably should be at least like 3 games over 500. A win is a win, and one like this has got to make you feel much better about the direction of this team. So excited to see what Jack Leiter is going to do in his debut and how long he sticks. Who knows? Hopefully the Rangers will eventually figure out how to hit home runs again. I'm not worried too much at this point, but if we go in another 6 weeks and White Langford still doesn't hit home run, maybe I'll start to get a little bit more concerned. But hey, top of the division, everything is coming up just enough roses for this team, and let's see how Jack Leiter does in his big league debut. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy World Series champion Texas Rangers baseball.